First game week of the Euros pretty much has shown how Pep Guardiola destroyed the beautiful game that we all love. Pretty much every day for the last week, we've seen such fun games of football to watch. Screamers getting put into the back of the net, underdogs pushing with everything that they have. Oh, and of course England played too, but as usual, nothing really too important happened with that. With the first set of games for the Euros being done, I wanted to quickly recap everything that's happened this last week because there's been a lot. Also talk about some important takeaways that I've gathered from these first couple of games. It's a long tournament, so everything can change after this next round. We're gonna have to wait and see for that. And of course, boys new to the channel, enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. We're gonna be dropping videos every week as much as we can. And if you're not new to the channel, boys, welcome back. Glad to have you around for another video. Now let's get into this Euro Week 1 recap. So Group A started off with the host nation in Germany facing off against Scotland. And you probably knew who was gonna win once I listed those names off, but you probably didn't expect exactly what happened. Germany in this game looked absolutely ruthless. This is definitely a Germany side that we have not seen in the last handful of years. I don't want to say exactly from minute 1, but pretty early on in the game, Scotland looked really lost. Germany managed to take control of the game pretty early on with some nice goals from Musiala and from Wirtz, the two wonder boys for this German side, and they really never looked back. Scotland then got a red card, which really just derailed them for the entire game, and Germany just decided to go ham. Like I said, we haven't really seen this version of Germany in a really long time, so it was really crazy to see the host nation popping off like this. Yes, Scotland are a poor team, and yes, they did have a red card. Performance as a whole was very cohesive, and it was really impressive to see. Dare I say, they were probably the most impressive of the big nations to play in this first game week. But we'll get into the other nations in a little bit. And to Macwool and the Scottish nation's dismay, what a poor showing out from Scotland. And to follow up this match in Group A, we had Hungary versus Switzerland. Realistically, a battle to see who's going to finish second place in the group. And as usual, for whatever reason in these international tournaments, Switzerland decided to just show up. You just know that every time they rock up to one of these tournaments, they're going to ball their asses off. Game ended up finishing 3-1. Switzerland had a pretty good hold of the game the entire time, because in all honesty, Hungary was pretty unimpressive this entire match. The Bozlai absolutely ghosted. This was more the usual for Switzerland in these international tournaments. Oh, and of course, Reed and Mbolo got a goal. Okay, let me ask you a question. Where does Mbolo play? Where has he played last year? How many goals does he have? You don't know, I don't know. How old is Mbolo? Nobody knows, but we all know he's gonna get a goal at an international tournament. This is what he does. With the first game week done, we currently have Germany in first place, Switzerland in second, Hungary in third, and Scotland in fourth. Scotland has a very bad goal difference, so like I said, it's gonna be pretty tough for them to progress, even if they do get third. They're really gonna have to show out in these next two games. Whereas for Hungary and Switzerland, it really depends on how their next two games go. Those second and third spots can go either way. Germany, more than likely, is probably gonna finish first. Now we turn our attention to what you could arguably say is the group of death with Group B. The first match here saw a new look Spanish side go up against an aging yet recent international powerhouse in Croatia. Like I said though, Croatia is aging, and you could really see this with their older players that have been there for a while. Modric really looked like he was out of gas completely. Dare I say, Modric's position in this Madrid side is in trouble, especially now with the acquisition of all these new players and changing formations. Might be time for Modric to just call it a day and just go to the retirement home. But Spain looked very impressive. They managed to get good control of the game, and honestly, they never really looked back. They ended up winning very comfortably 3-0 and scored some very nice goals as well. Another inevitable man in these tournaments, Morata, ended up getting a goal. Fabian Ruiz did his best Messi impression and just dribbled through a bunch of freaking Croatian players and put it in the back of the net. And then Lamine Yamal, how old is this kid? He's probably what, 16? He's like 16, right? The boy puts a perfect ball into the box. Carvajal hits it home. Absolutely great performance from Yamal as well. Overall, very comfortable win for Spain. They really impressed in their first game. Then to follow up this match, we had the reigning champions going up against Albania. And to pretty much everyone's disbelief, Albania got their first goal and broke the record for the fastest goal in Euro history. You could hear a pasta noodle drop in the streets of Italy. It was crazy. I cannot believe my eyes. I thought this was about to take a turn for the worse, but their lead didn't really last that long because Albania really just kind of switched off after this. Italy managed to get 2 goals back within a 5-minute span in the 11th and 16th minute, and they never really looked back. Italy did look very solid there in their opening game, but they were very much lacking in the attacking department. Solid midfield, solid defense, amazing goalkeeper. That attack, it just doesn't scream Euro winning. But neither did the last team that won the Euro, so we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Oh, and there was some pretty funny stuff going on in the pregame. There was some Albanians snapping pasta or something like that. Gotta love it. Gotta love some fun, some shenanigans. Gotta love it. So for Group B, we're looking at Spain in first place, Italy in second, Albania in third, only on goal difference, and then Croatia in last place. Croatia still have to play Italy and Albania, so there's still a good chance they make it out the group. We'll see though. Albania weren't too unimpressive against Italy, so maybe they'll get a result against Croatia and then lose to Spain. We'll see, but in my opinion, Spain's probably going to top this group. What happens with the remaining 3 spots, really yet to see. Well, with Group C, we had pretty much one game where all the fun of the tournament just got sucked out, and another one that was a pretty good and fun watch. The first match was Denmark against Slovenia, and no, this was not the boring one. This was actually a very good back and forth game. 2 underdog nations pretty much just going at it blow for blow. Very fun to watch. I think the most headline grabbing part of this game was the fact that Eriksen, after nearly dying on the pitch in the last tournament, comes back and leads his nation, gets them a goal, and puts them in the lead early on. What a tale. This guy's Iron Man, bro. He has the freaking reactor in his chest going crazy, going overdrive. What a story. You love to see it. Then you had the battle of the two young strikers, Højlund versus Sesko. Højlund does still look very raw. He didn't have the best game. Sesko looked super fearless. The man was just shooting on sight. You could tell this was just a game where both teams wanted to just go at it. The game ended up being 1-1. Slovenia ended up getting a pretty good deflection into the back of the net. Very keen to see who progresses in this tournament between these two teams, because they have some very low-key sleeper shouts, but we're gonna have to wait and see. As I'm gonna keep saying throughout this video, we're gonna have to wait and see. And then to follow up this great back and forth match between nice attacking play and young great talent, we had to watch Southgate ball as England went against Serbia. As I've said in the past, England are very cocky when it comes to these tournaments. They always start off on a decent foot. They beat these teams that are in their groups, and then they match up against the big dog, and they pretty much just pee-pee in their pants. But this time, they did not look very good at all. England got a good goal with Jude Bellingham, of course, getting on the score sheet, and then they pretty much just sat back the entire time. It was a very unconvincing win in the end. Serbia had some good chances, but they weren't able to really capitalize off them. This game led to a lot of questions in the English midfield. Trent pretty much had a stinker. He really didn't do too much. Should Bellingham be playing in the 10? Should Foden be playing on the left side when that's not really his preferred position? Foden had a stinker because he was playing out of position. There's not really a clear outlook into what is England's best starting 11. So there's still a lot of question marks with England. They weren't too convincing in their first win. As long as they got the win, they're gonna stay calm because they just really got to get out of the group stage. But it's not like get breath. So with that, England sit pretty comfortably at the top of the group with 3 points. Denmark and Slovenia obviously 1 point each, and then Serbia at the bottom. Group is technically still wide open. If one of these guys manages to beat England, it's going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening down the line. I don't foresee England dropping any points. They're probably going to top the group. We're going to have to keep an eye on who finishes second, who finishes third. These next couple of games are going to be very good in this group. A lot up for grabs. Now we turn our attention to Group D, where we have a group where outside of the front runners, it's very wide open. First, we're going to take a look at Poland versus the Netherlands. So pretty early on, the Dutch got caught lacking in a corner. So Van Dijk, they took the corner quickly. The man was sleeping. He couldn't get out there. It wasn't his man. I'm just being a hater if I'm being honest. After Poland got their goal, Depay was super wasteful. He's really not a number 9, but he was playing in that position anyways. And the man, maybe it's time for him to give up football before the football gives up on him. You know, it might be time for him to call it quits, at least as being a number 9. They got pretty lucky to level it as Gakpo hit a ball and it ended up deflecting off a couple of people and going in the back of the net. Nonetheless, though, they did respond pretty positively. They were knocking on the door the entire time and they ended up getting their goal. But pretty much up until the point where Weghorst came into the game, they did not look too good going forward. Once Weghorst did come in, it pretty much showed why Depay is really not a number 9. Maybe he could drop into the 10 role, play more of a facilitator, but he's not a number 9. Weghorst, as usual, Mr. Inevitable, gets his goal for the Dutch side, puts him in the lead. So there you go. You have a Weghorst winner. Poland did show some good fight, but as usual, they're pretty poor in international tournaments, so they lost. I mean, what could you expect? I have no hope for Poland anymore. Netherlands as a whole was pretty disappointing, so I could see them probably just getting bounced out of the group stages pretty early on. With that game being done, we move over to Mbappe and France, who went up against a pretty good Austrian side. Austria, under the tutelage of Ralf Rangnick, have been pretty good, and they showed how well coached they are the entire game. They're pretty hard to break down, I'm not gonna lie. France did get a lucky goal. It was pretty much an own goal that I don't know if would have gone in if the guy didn't head it into his own net, but nonetheless, France found themselves in the lead. It really felt like there was a little bit of a lack in creativity in France because they just could not really create meaningful chances that really made the Austrian defenders worry about anything. It was pretty poor. Maybe Austria could be a dark horse. They just got to figure out the scoring part because they seem pretty good, pretty organized in their defense. It's just scoring. And most importantly, the thing that's going to shake up the tournament the most for France, Mbappe has a broken nose. So Mbappe is out for the rest of the group stage games, which France should still be able to win, but they're going to need Mbappe back in those knockout stages. They need him back. When he does come back, he's going to be wearing a mask. You know, players with the mask, they automatically get +10 in all attributes. What mask he ends up coming back in, we're still yet to see, but it's definitely going to shake up things when he comes back. Hopefully the France team does enough to get them into the knockout stages, but I'm sure they will. So with the first set of games being done, Netherlands sit at the top of the group alongside France, and then Poland and Austria each at the bottom with 0 points. France are about to play Netherlands, so whoever wins that game is probably going to top the group and be automatically through. Netherlands is probably going to finish second. Who finishes third is probably going to be Austria. Poland's probably going to get bounced out. Yet to see though, but very interesting to keep an eye on this group with an Mbappe-less France. With Group E, we have a group on paper that should be relatively straightforward, but the first matches for this group have definitely twisted things upside down. We start with Romania versus Ukraine, and honestly, Romania dog-walked Ukraine so bad. This was the worst possible showing for Ukraine and the best possible showing for Romania that could have happened. Romania scored banger after banger after banger, and it was insane. Zinchenko was crying. You love to see that. Mudryk stunk it up on the pitch. This was just an absolute beating from Romania. This was crazy. Probably the performance of their lifetime. They're probably not going to get any better than this in the tournament, or maybe they will. Maybe they're going to carry this on. Who knows? But they destroyed the Ukraine. And to follow up this banger of a performance from Romania, we now turn our attention to the third best team in international football according to FIFA to see what they can do against Slovakia. And of course, as usual, Belgium just disappoints. How this team is ranked third in the entire world it beats me. I don't know. There's some corruption going on here or something. I don't get it. They suck. That's it. I can sit here overanalyze and talk about all these different things. They're just not good. Lukaku, not good. It's over for Belgium. Their golden generation done. They're holding on to a handful of players. KDB, where was he? Where was he the entire game? The man went missing. The man was out there in Germany eating bratwurst or something. He was nowhere to be found. Lukaku, stinker, of course, as usual. Great job to Slovakia for capitalizing on this very poor Belgium side, but Belgium is probably still going to go through. I think I would expect them to, but they are very bad. We'll see if they end up rescuing this tournament, but it's not looking good for them either. After the first game week, we have Romania sitting in first, as they deserve to be after the first game week. Slovakia in second place after beating Belgium. You then have Belgium third and Ukraine fourth. We'll see how the rest of this group plays out. Like I said, I think Belgium's probably still going to go through, but for their sake, they probably just need to get balanced out on the group so they can really reshift things going forward. But again, we'll see. And finally, we have Group F, the group with Cristiano Ronaldo and 3 underdog nations. First game was arguably the game of the tournament. Oh my days, if you missed out on this match, I don't know what to tell you. This was heat neutral football. The best game of the tournament. It was Turkey against Georgia, not the state of Georgia in America, Georgia the country. This game, for whatever reason, felt like you just turned on Brazil versus France in the 2006 World Cup. This was the caliber of the players that were on the pitch. I don't know what these guys were on, not to insinuate anything. Maybe they need to get tested, but this match was nuts. You would think these guys hated each other the way that they were playing. Turkey were on smoke with their first goal. Bad boy finish, volley, top right corner, you love to see it. Arguable for goal of the tournament, right? Georgia then scored their first ever goal in a Euro competition, just after Turkey had a goal disallowed. What's his box office? Who writes this? Somebody's writing the script for these games. It's not me. Somebody's got to be doing it. And then Arda Güler, oh my. Again, I don't know how old this kid is. He plays for Madrid. He was on the bench the entire season. Puts his entire country on his back and bangs it into the back of the net. What a ridiculous goal. Georgia pushed and they pushed and they pushed after this because they wanted to rescue a point. They wanted to go for the win. But the Turkish defense just locked in. They were locked in. They were no nonsense. They had some very crucial blocks as well. Georgia had a free kick. They had a couple of corners. And guess what? Turkey counterattacked while the Georgian goalkeeper was up top and they scored into an empty net. The crowd went wild. The Turkish fans went wild. It was like the 96th minute. This game was box office. It was insane. Honestly, the performances of both these teams, Georgia lost, but even they looked very good on the pitch. Turkey are back to underdog status now with this performance here. If both teams play like this going forward, the group is wide open. And honestly, I say that because of the performance that Portugal had, which takes us to the Portugal game versus Czechia. So Portugal in the past loaded with talent, but lacking offensively, and this time it's been more of the same. Many of you probably expect me to slander Ronaldo at this point, but honestly, he didn't do too bad. He managed to get on the end of a lot of things. It probably would have just ended up going over anybody else. Ultimately, I think he did the best with the service that he had. Could have played better, could have played worse. He just played pretty good. I think Bruno was very good for them, but Bernardo Silva looked extremely lost. It's probably because he's playing on the right instead of playing in the center. I think they could probably afford to bench Bernardo Silva in the long run to get a better winger in there for Ronaldo, but I'm not the Portuguese coach. Czechia did manage to score another banger in this tournament. Of course, this tournament's been full of great goals. So they got their goal and really shook things up, but then Portugal locked in. They ended up winning 2-1, but still a good showing from Czechia. Pretty good defensively, just kind of lacking going forward. You also saw a little bit of luck going Portugal's way for them to get their goals, but ultimately they got the win, so that's all that matters. It was not the most convincing result for Portugal, but like I said, they got their win. They just got to improve from here. Get some better service into the box for whoever's going to be playing on top for them, whether it's Ronaldo or Gonzalo Ramos. They just need to figure that aspect out. So with that, you have Turkey sitting in first place, Portugal in second place, Czechia in third, and then Georgia in fourth. This group, like I said, depending on Turkey and Georgia, if they play to the same caliber as they just played, wide open. But we're still yet to see if this is going to be performances that they can keep up. So far, this tournament's been amazing. I can't complain. I do have a couple of main takeaways that I want to talk about real quick. Firstly, the young talent in this tournament is absolutely delivering. Yamal, Wirtz, Musiala, Güler, Jude Bellingham, they've all delivered for their nations, and it's wonderful to see this. You even see the likes of Sesko for Slovenia doing all he can to put his nation on his back and push them forward and push them to attack. It's very refreshing to see. And secondly, in terms of who is the front runner for this tournament after this first game week, I would say say it has to go to Germany. They were the most decisive, the most controlling, the most disciplined, the most elite in going forward out of all the major nations that you've considered as frontrunner, especially if we're comparing them directly to England, France, and Portugal, who all kind of disappointed even though they won their games. Germany is definitely in the early lead in terms of who might win this tournament, but it's only been one game week. Lastly, I do just want to say briefly, real quick, all of Pep's star players have had stinkers, all of them. So what does that say? You can make your own conclusion. For me, all these guys are going to be on fraud watch from here on out. Nonetheless, great week of football. I'm just excited to see what Copa America has in store for us.